My name is Patrick Howie, and I'm here today to present Budgeting with Spreadsheets. I work in a credit union in the loans and financial planning division. So this is something I wanted to share because I have a weird obsession with spreadsheets, but I also really enjoy budgeting and being able to figure out where my money is going and how to save more money to be able to figure out what things are affordable. And budgeting using spreadsheets is kind of great because it'll show you where your money's really going, even though you may not realize how much you're spending on certain things, how you can kind of move that money around to things that are more important to you. But it'll also let you plan ahead so that if there's something you're wanting to purchase or something you're needing to purchase long term, save up for, it kind of gives you the ability to force yourself to be disciplined about that. Anything we don't record or don't measure, typically we don't end up doing. So this is just one way to do that. And for some people, this is going to be really great because they're going to, some people just like using spreadsheets for things. For some, the spreadsheet may not be the natural way they would want to do this, but it's great because it gives you a record year over year and throughout the year. The way I'm going to show it is going to be on Google Sheets because it's free, it's easy to use, and has a lot of the same functionality as Microsoft Excel. Now, for some people, they prefer Excel, or they may have another spreadsheet application that they prefer to use, and that's completely fine. At the end of this, I'll talk a little bit more about it, that the examples I'm going to use are going to be from Google Sheets, but there will be a shareable link from that you'll be able to copy and paste. It should pull over all of the formulas I'm using, and you could always make your own to tailor it to however you want it to be. One reason I made this is because a lot of the templates that were in Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word for budgeting, I didn't really like them very much. They didn't seem to actually help you budget anything. They just seemed a way to add all your expenses and your income up, which doesn't actually help you all that much. So without anything else, I want to get right into it with some of the examples. So let me go ahead and share this. All right, so I'm going to show you two different screens here. One of this is going to be just a sample budget. Now, a lot of these are just numbers I've inputted. It's not my personal budget or anybody's particular numbers, but the way I've broken this up is to have any kind of income up at the top and then all expenses, where the red is right here, down below. Now, when you make your own, you'll of course want this to be the actual expenses that you have every month. You can color code it with things that are going to be recurring bills every single month. It's always going to be the same or very similar, and then other things that may fluctuate every month. I've also broken it up in between the target for that month and the actual, so you can see what things you think this is how much you're spending and what things you're spending a lot more or a lot less on than you thought, and know where that money's going. So at the end of the year, you're not just left with, oh, this is how much money is in my bank account, and this is how much money I wish to spend or what I want to buy. This way you can break it down very particularly to what things your money's going toward, and also see what things you really need to be spending more on, like retirement and savings. They say you should always pay your savings first, but let's be honest, we all look at our bills first. We pay those, we buy the things we were waiting for that paycheck to have the money to buy, and then if there's anything left over, we send it to savings. One way to combat that is to have an automatic withdraw on your bank or your credit union account, or even straight from your paycheck if you have a company that has a credit union you're a member of that's directly related to that company. Then you can actually have money going to your savings automatically every time, and that's one of the best ways to really build some savings without it taking much effort. But one thing that I like about this, a few years ago, my wife and I didn't realize how much money we were spending on eating out, and we really like food, and we like trying different kinds of food. And by doing this, having the target and then the actual, I realized how much money we're spending on eating out and how little we were spending in comparison on groceries. By doing this, it kind of helped us be more disciplined about where our money was going. We can still enjoy the things we want to enjoy, but this way we know where that money was going until well before we're noticing it in our bank account that the money is not there that we thought would be there. In this particular example, I put just regular income from work. Some businesses will have holiday pay or vacation pay. I like to break those out separately just to give myself a true accounting of how much I'm actually getting from income and how much is from other sources. Or if you have bonuses at your particular job, you can add that. If you have any side jobs like Uber or Lyft, that's always good to have in here. Those, of course, are going to be fluctuating, which is why I don't have the same amount in any given month. And if there's any miscellaneous income, if you do some work for cash or anything else, if you're a handyman, or if you like to do some other things that bring you some cash income, but not enough that it would show up on your taxes or anywhere else, you can still account for it here. Or if you have a cashback rewards card, a lot of those give you money at least once a year at a particular month, and that way you can put that in there as well. On the expenses, again, these were numbers I was plugging in. Your particular rent or car note or utilities are going to be completely different, and you're going to want to look at those. And then when you plan for the next year, you can use your actual amounts to make the plan for the next year. Or if you know there's going to be an increase, like a phone upgrade, you know that bill is going to be now higher than it was, you can plan ahead for that. Or even see if something's affordable, like switching from, if you're using a TV provider and going to a streaming provider instead. That's one thing that I've used this for to see what service would be more affordable and if we'd really be saving money long term. We all kind of get stuck on that. Well, your monthly payment is this, but if the monthly payment's getting you less, or if you have to have 3 services to give you what your previous service gave you under one roof, are you really saving money, or are you just spending more or the same amount just in 3 different ways? This is a good way to be able to break that down before you've made the choice in the purchase. Now you can make this as complicated or as simple as you would like. One thing I've done by the end of this, you notice I've set the cells to where when I scroll over, I can still see on the left side over here my headings, but then I can see each month as I go. Now, for some of you, that's going to be something you're not really interested in or is more complicated than you'd like to get. There's a lot of tutorials online on how to do that for freezing cells on Excel and Google Sheets. But the big thing here is that at the end, I total up what I've targeted, what percentage of my income I think is going to be going to those expenses. I do the actual and then the real percentage. And that way I can tell throughout the year, am I spending a lot more on credit card debt, or a lot more on food out, or a lot more on just fun than I meant to? Now, in this case, I hadn't put anything for vacation, fun, or charity. Usually those would be filled out depending on where your priorities are and what things that you're wanting to do. But the biggest thing is to always make sure you're being as accurate as possible on your actual expenses. For some, that may mean every month that you're balancing your checkbook and putting that in. For some, 2 or 3, 4 times a month even, you're taking all of your expenses off of your online accounts or your receipts, if you save receipts, and you're inputting it in under each field. But also things like retirement and savings, you can see if you're not putting a whole lot into that, maybe in this case, it's 1% of income going to savings. If having some savings and having better retirement savings is important to you, you should make sure that you're targeting that and specifically making sure that money's getting there. If you really want to, you can get as complicated as getting average amounts of where your income is coming from every month. You can set it to be a certain color if a number's positive or negative. You can even make it to where you know how much you gained more than what you spent throughout the year. And something I think is just kind of neat, you can make a graph of where your money's going, because it's amazing when you look at it. We all think of rent, again, as how much it costs per month. But in this case, you can see what a large percentage living expenses take up of your income. Now that's the sample. What I'd like to get into now is us building one from scratch. Now it has all the same formulas and everything else, but in this case, it's blank. There's nothing actually put in there except for work. There's nothing put in there for expenses. So for some, it's going to be at least a job, maybe multiple jobs. Might have some secondary income, say from ride sharing or something else. A lot of people do. Now, in my field, when ride sharing comes up, usually that means they have to have been doing it for 2 years with 2 years of tax returns to show the income to verify it. In this case, this is accounting for everything you're actually bringing in. But just be aware of that anytime you're trying to actually verify income for something official like a loan application, you'll want to have pay stubs. You'll want to have tax returns showing it if it's something that's self-employment. In this case, though, this is just for you personally, for nobody else. So please add in everything that you're actually making. And again, if you bring something in you didn't expect or was different than what your target was, always make sure you have a miscellaneous field. That way it's just a catch-all for anything like that. Same for expenses. I usually like to put it at the bottom, just as I don't know where else to put it, but I spent something on it or I got money from it, and you can always put it in there. You can even put notes in, like if you just want to note something. One reason I like the spreadsheets, you can always go back And for Google Sheets, it'll actually automatically save, which I think is really nice. So you can have it on your phone, on a mobile device, on a computer, any computer that you can log into your Google account. And I'm not sponsored by Google at all. In no way is this benefiting us that we're using Google specifically, except that it's free, it's easy, and it's accessible anywhere. And if you save it on your phone or do an update on your phone, it's going to also save when you pull it up at home later. So I like that about it, but you can use any application you like or you prefer. For expenses, usually everybody has some kind of living expense, a rent, a mortgage, something else. Typically there's some kind of utilities. For some, there will be a car note. For some, it's not a car note, it's more the maintenance of a car. There always needs to be something in savings. Again, savings are important, and if you don't specifically set money aside for that every month, then it's very easy to always think, oh, I'll do it later, oh, I'll do it later, oh, I'll do it later. But then when you need it, it's not there. So it's important to make sure that's in your budget so that you can always make sure that you're making sure there's money there. Retirement, they say no one ever fails to plan. There are never plans to fail, they fail to plan. So always put some retirement in there, whether that's your 401k or whether that's money that you've put into something else or into your savings account if that's where you're putting it. But always make sure that's there in a way that's going to make sense for you. Something I also do is I put taxes, Social Security, Medicare withdrawals so that I can put my gross income up in the income fields, but then I can also account for how much is coming out of taxes, Social Security, Medicare. It also will help you in the future to know how much of your income is going to that. If you have a raise, it gives you some ability to do things in the future off of the past information, because you can keep making new tabs at the bottom here and just copying and pasting your formulas and just entering new data. That's another thing I like about anything that's digital instead of doing a physical spreadsheet, which for some, pencil and paper may be the way that works best for you. I prefer this, and I don't have very good handwriting, so this always makes it a little easier for me. So I think it's always important to put some fun in there. We all like to have fun. We all like to do things like see movies or go and do other things, especially once we know that we're able to do those as COVID allows within your particular area. But I think it's important to always have that budgeted in there. Otherwise, it's very easy to spend too much there and then not have the money for some of the other things you need, of course. Something else that might be important to you is any kind of maintenance on your, right, in this case, I have maintenance on the car, but any kind of maintenance on a home or anything else, or medical expenses. It's always good to have that in there just in case. Again, I have a miscellaneous down there. If you give to charity, whichever way that may be, or if you're involved with a charity organization volunteering, and sometimes that means there's money that you're giving to that, make sure you have a line in there for it. And if there's anything else in there specific to you, if you have a particular hobby, for instance, multiple hobbies, make sure you budget the money for it. That way, as you spend money on that through the year, you're either accounting for it under the actual or you're planned for it in the targeted amount. So that may be a month that you have to spend less somewhere else. And of course, gas, even though most of us aren't driving nearly as much as we usually would, you still have to budget for your gas. And of course, anything else you want, you can always just add a column or a row, however you need to. And you can color code these however you'd like. In this case, none of those need to be. Now, if we're just going to go for what we might plan something will be, you notice I can just enter these in through the whole year, some of them being just consistent amounts and some of them not being. And it's going to total them up over here on the right-hand side. Again, that's kind of nice because you can see how much it costs you per month and how much it costs you overall. For those of you who may be car shopping, it also helps to see not just what it costs you per month, but what it's costing you every single year of your income. That may have been some of the money you would spend on something else. So it's important to know both. They're both important for different reasons. I don't want to spend all my time just inputting this, but I do want to kind of show you how it works. So if we're putting in everything you're trying to spend on, or how much you think you're going to be there. So I know some of these may be far off from what you actually spend. I'm just trying to make sure there's some values in there. Now we see per month from this, that's $1,800 and $1,870. If the income is far less than that, obviously we need to scale back expenses and find where to save some money, or increase the amount at the top. So for instance, if all you make from your income is $1,500 from one job, you have a second job that you make about $100 a month. In this case, you'd probably want to take your ride sharing and increase how much time you're spending on that. If you make more than that per month from your other jobs, that doesn't mean you want to increase your spending necessarily. You may want to make sure you're increasing some to savings or putting more for other expenses. Again, you're going to want to make these however your actual expenses look. And you would enter those in for every month. And as you go month to month, you'll enter in your actuals. One nice thing about doing this on a spreadsheet instead of just handwriting it is that you can enter in using the values and the formulas available on spreadsheets. So if you click on it, you'll actually see where everything comes from. So like for rent, it's probably just gonna be the one payment. But say for groceries or eating out, which I don't have on here, you can actually add up each thing to make sure you've already included that. So when you look through your receipts or you look through your credit card statement or your debit card statement, then you can make sure all of it's on there and make sure you haven't missed anything. Because the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself on this and then not have the money at the end of the day. So it's important to be as accurate as possible on this. And again, that may mean once a month you do this. For some, it's easier to break it up into smaller bites. So maybe 4 times a month or at the end of every week, just making sure you're updating everything on here. While it will seem like a whole lot of work, or it sounds like it is, it means month to month you'll know how much you're really spending. If you only budgeted 60 on gas, but it's costing you 150 in gas, you're going to need to adjust your expenses the next month. So instead of waiting till the end of the year or until you notice that your bank account is drained, you're able to avoid some other issues there. You're able to budget for it and be able to make plans. So I know that was kind of a brief crash course in this. And food always ends up being a lot more than what any of us expect it to be. Say we spend exactly the same amount that we'd planned. Now, this is something you'll want to set up yourself if you'd like it to be, but you can always do that in any digital spreadsheet. And there's some different ways to do that, whether it's Excel or Google Docs. But I like having the visual representation at the bottom so you can see, oh man, there's a lot of eating out. Maybe I can cook more. Or hey, I really enjoy eating out better. I'd rather spend more money there, a little less in groceries, but just making sure that the overall amount is the same or less. We can see how much of that pie each thing is taking up. I really enjoy that, but for some, that may be more than you really need to have on there. And if you'd like to save a little bit of time on this whole spreadsheet is going to be available for free. You can copy and paste it. You won't be able to edit the version that's going to be online, but you can copy and paste this with a shareable link that's going to be down in the comments. It's going to be a Google Drive, Google Sheets document. But if you copy and paste that either into Google Sheets or into Excel or into another spreadsheeting document, we tried it out, and all the formulas that I have here came through for us when we tried it. Now, you may want to start from scratch and do this your own way. You may want to make it look the way you want to. You can make this look as fancy and nice, or as just very simple and bare bones as you'd like. But I think it's important that if you do this, again, you can plan ahead when you're making a large purchase or a large decision like a car, a house, you're switching internet providers or cable providers or streaming providers. You can see what things are affordable and how you're going to fit it in, instead of just saying, oh, it costs $15 a month. Of course I can pay $15 a month. Of course, that always sounds small. But when you add it into here, you can really see if it's affordable or not. And that means you have more money that you can spend and have more buying power that way. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If you do have any other questions, please let your librarian know that this is something you're interested in. I would always be happy to volunteer and do it again, or go through a more detailed version of this. And I'm sure there are other people who also may have their own ways of doing this that they'd like to share. Thank you so much for being involved with the Memphis City Library at the Cordova branch. My name is Patrick Howie, and if you do have any other questions, please let us know in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer any ones that I can. Get out of this. Sorry, I'm still learning Teams, so I apologize if for any reason there were any big delays there. Everybody having a good day. Stay safe and healthy. And again, please keep enjoying your library services. I really appreciate all your time here. Take care.